of how they're always like in the woods shooting deer. When I used to watch Little Hiawatha on TV, his pants were always falling down and he never successfully got anything. But
all Native Americans are warlike and barbaric. I mean, all they do is go around shooting people with arrows.
And I think of the long flowing hair, like Pocahontas. It's normally black and real black in texture, and they love for you to touch their hair.
Braves games, if you think about it, they must love sporting events because historically they're always volunteering to like be our mascots.
You make this any other racial group where you do a ridiculous caricature like that, people get it right away, ooh, that's racist. But for some reason, when they see this one, everyone's like, well, yeah, that's our team.
I don't think it's very historically accurate.
Don't understand why we need to be a mascot.
Native American people don't look like this.
I don't understand what the hair is.
He looks nice, yeah, he looks really kind.
That looks like a child did it.
They don't do this with anyone else but animals and Native Americans.
It bothers me that like one of the symbols that people recognize about our people is a weapon.
This is this weird, outdated view of what it means to be Native.
We only brought those out in defense of ourselves, our land, our people.
You see the Atlantic Games and they're doing the ooh.
When I look at those pictures, it breaks my heart.
We don't need to have like human beings represented as mascots.
And they're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about.
A lot of them say they're just honoring us.
I don't feel honored.
I don't think it's honoring us in the least. It's very hurtful.
It's not always just about you and how you feel. It's about the people who are involved. It's about the people whose feelings are being affected by this.
One would argue that the use of American Indian mascots have been a huge issue for Native Americans for over 30 years. Recently, several organizations have called for a discontinuation of the use of these mascots, including the American Psychological Association. Many Native Americans argue the fact that these mascots do not properly represent Native Americans. However, there are high schools and colleges that still continue the use of Native American logos or images today. According to Clarkston, Native American mascots remains among the top 10 mascots for schools in the United States. The state of Oregon announced last week that its public school must discontinue the use of Native American nicknames and mascots. The Board of Education gives state schools until 2017 to stop using the names such as Indians, Chiefs, Braves, Redskins, etc. Other names such as warriors will still be permitted, provided that no imagery is used referring to a particular tribe, custom, or individual.
In 1492, the Europeans had their first encounter with New World Indians. Columbus wrote, "They all go round as naked as their mothers bore them. They could easily be commanded and made to work, to sow, and to do whatever might be needed, to build towns and be taught to wear clothes and adopt our ways. They are the best people in the world and above all the gentlest." Although Columbus spoke kindly, the encounters between the natives and Europeans was filled with slavery, murder, and rape.
By 1546, the New World colonists had developed a society and economy dependent on slave labor, and by 1820, more than 20,000 Indians lived in slavery.
In 1823, the court case Johnson versus McIntosh decided that tribal chiefs could not sell their land because of the doctrine of discovery, which stated that Indian tribes had no power to grant lands to anyone other than the federal government. The Bureau of Indian Affairs was founded in 1849. Their mission has been to enhance the quality of life, to promote economic opportunity, and to carry out the responsibility and to protect the improvement and trust assets of American Indians, Indian tribes, and Alaska Natives. Since its inception in 1824, the Bureau of Indian Affairs has been both a witness to and a principal player in the relationship between the federal government and Indian tribes. The BIA has changed dramatically over the past 185 years, evolving as federal policies designed to assimilate American Indians changed to policies that promote Indian self-determination.
On April 7, 1830, the Indian Removal Act was passed by President Andrew Jackson. This bill was submitted to Congress calling for the removal of tribes in the East Lands, west of the Mississippi. In 1838, President Jackson sent federal troops to forcibly remove almost 16,000 Cherokee who had refused to move westward. In May, American soldiers herded most of the Cherokees into camps where they were imprisoned until they were forced to march over 800 miles to Oklahoma, where around 4,000 Cherokees died.
In 1865, General Patrick Connor sent soldiers to the Powder River Basin to the Big Horn Mountains to attack and kill every male Indian over 12 years of age. April 1st, 1866, Congress overrode President Johnson's veto of Civil Rights Bill, which gives equal rights to all persons born in the United States except for Indians.
In 1879, the first Indian Training and Industrial School was opened to a group of 84 Lakota children.
Ten Little Indians. That's a song that was counting dead Indians back on the trails when they would kill Indians.
The schools were made to remove young Indians from their native culture and forcibly assimilate them into mainstream American culture.
I remember being younger, growing up on the reservation, and being told, don't trust white people, don't listen to them. You never told why.
The government schools are constantly being built and hospitals added. We bring them in, clean them up, and start them on their way to civilization.
The beatings these children received at the schools were so harsh that many times there were graveyards made at the schools specifically for the children. In 1882, the Indian Rights Association was organized by white reformers who wanted to help Indians abandon their culture and spiritual beliefs and assimilate into mainstream American society.
1887, the Dawes Severalty Act gives the president power to reduce the land holdings of the Indian nations across the country. 1953, under House Concurrent Resolution 108, the trust relationship with many Indian tribes was terminated. Terminated tribes were subject to state laws, and their lands were sold to non-Indians. This led to Congress terminating over 100 tribes.
The Indian Civil Rights Act was passed in 1968, which required states to obtain tribal consent prior to extending any jurisdictions over an Indian reservation. This act gave most protections of the Bill of Rights and the 14th Amendment to the tribal members in dealing with their tribal government.
1978, Indian Child Welfare Act. This congressional act addressed the widespread practice of transferring the care and custody of Indian children to non-Indians. It recognized the authority of tribal courts to hear the adoption and guardianship cases of Indian children and established a strict set of statutory guidelines for those cases heard in state court.
It set up a system of regulations that states have to follow when they take an Indian child into custody. They have to notify the tribe. They have to follow a certain order of preference of placement of the child in their own family, in their own community, their own tribe, if possible. And it also allows the tribe to take jurisdiction over child welfare cases and have those children returned to their communities.
In 1990, the Native American Languages Act was passed. This congressional act made it to U.S. policy to preserve, protect, and promote the rights and freedom of Native Americans to use, practice, and develop Native American languages. Sadly, today, many American Indian languages have been lost, Less than 100 languages are currently spoken by Indians.
In 1996, November was declared the National American Indian Heritage Month by President Clinton. We would like to bring attention to one of the oldest and largest nonprofit law firms, Native American Rights Fund, NARF. Created in 1970, it is dedicated to asserting and defending the rights of Indian tribes, organizations, and individuals nationwide. Their foremost priority is to protect and secure continued tribal existence.
We have created a public service announcement in the form of a brochure, which you have before you, to help educate on the history of First Nations people. The brochure acknowledges stereotypes that are associated with the culture, the challenges that they have faced, and ways in which every person can help to improve the social equality of Native Americans. Our goal is to share this brochure with others via conferences at schools, businesses, and other institutions during the month of November.
To further increase the understanding of the Native American culture, we conducted an interview with Mary and her husband Kitchi, a full-blooded Cherokee Indian couple. They shared with us that in the Native American culture, it is disrespectful to wear the headdress of a chief or a squaw. For every feather worn by the chief and every piece of jewelry adorned by the squaw, it symbolizes an accomplishment along that person's journey.
What is this even made of?
I think it's supposed to look like suede or like animal skin.
I don't believe there are any headbands that have the feather in the front like this.
When you see beads on an actual powwow dress, every single pattern means something.
A costume like this keeps Native Americans in the past, as if we're not real people today.
There's a medicine, a jingle dress, and everything on that dress means something. They put a prayer into every cone before they attach it to the dress.
There actually feels like there's something pretty disrespectful about wearing a people group as a costume.
You're not dressing up as a Viking or an ancient Roman. Those people aren't around anymore, and this is still very real to us.
Because it's so inaccurate, it almost feels like a joke. Like someone's making fun of me and all of the things that my people fought and died to hold on to.
I actually belong to the Sioux Nation, and you don't get to tell me that this isn't offensive.
I don't think anybody's making these costumes to be deliberately racist.
I actually think I have more of an authority to tell you when it's offensive and that sort of thing, because I've lived with this my entire life.
So if somebody of the people group is telling you that it's wrong, that should be enough for you.
Mary also shared with us that there are parts of the American culture that she has to embrace. For example, President Andrew Jackson, who is responsible for the Indian Removal Act of 1829, is on the $20 bill. She is reminded of his treatment of her people and how her traditions were impacted each time she uses U.S. currency. Kitchi proceeded to explain to us that within the Native American culture, women are considered to be very powerful. It is believed that this power can weaken the abilities of Indian men, and therefore women are not to ever touch the tools of her husband. This would include his fishing, hunting, and war equipment. It is also custom for the squaw to do nothing for the family during her menstrual cycle due to the transfer of that power.
We interviewed Mary and Kitchi at the Indian Powwow Festival located at Stone Mountain. There we learned about the dance and the different jewelries and traditions that Native Americans still pass on generation to generation today. It was very eye-opening to see how their culture means so much to them still today after being forcibly assimilated for years, centuries, and generations.
Animalistic,
Barbaric,
uncivilized,
uneducated,
warlike.
These are words that have been associated with the history of First Nations people.
It is through our research and cultural immersion experience that we have concluded that First Nations people are
compassionate,
loyal,
spiritual,
peaceful.
Please stay tuned for a short quiz. Question 1. What are the largest factors that has led to the cultural genocide of the First Nations people?
Question 2. First Nation people were plagued with smallpox in the year of 1837. Is this true or false?
Question 3. Why were the children of the First Nations people removed from their families?
Question number 4. What year did First Nations people gain civil rights?
The end.